still think we can find a compromised version. In the meantime, I'm going to do a last movement now. Before I get tired.
Before you go back to this. All right. Fine.
In 1966, Glenn Gould wrote a 23-page essay for High Fidelity magazine called The Prospects of Recording. What he saw was not only recording studios were becoming more advanced, but the machines used in people's homes were advancing to a point where he saw the listener taking a creative role. Littered in this essay were references on a new listener. And quickly I realized that this new listener that he was speaking of was me.
As this media evolves, it becomes available for situations in which the quite properly self-indulgent participation of the listener will be encouraged. So this leads us to assume then that the old distinctions about the various classes of the musical hierarchy, distinctions that separated the composer and the performer, and both of them from the listener, will to a large extent become outmoded. The prospects of the recording are such as to suggest that an overlapping of function will become the next major force in musical activity.
So basically he's saying that these listeners would eventually have the power to use their stereo equipment to manipulate recordings to fit their tastes and preferences. And that would be the next major force in musical activity. That's pretty much what happened.
Has the opportunity to be a gateway drug for a lot of people into classical music, because not only was he a brilliant pianist and an unconventional pianist and kind of a, almost a rock and roll pianist, if you want to put it that way, he was into the business about sampling and experimenting with cut-ups and mashups and broadcasting that would be very familiar on some levels to a lot of people today. The idea of sampling, the idea of remixing, the idea of creating mashups. So if you can get into Gould through some of the other stuff that he was doing aside from the Goldberg variations, you might find that this is a way for you to get into classical music in a way that you never thought possible. And with a lot of people today taking Gould's music and cutting it up as he would have loved, you may find yourself turning into a classical music fan via this particular gateway.